Giselle, my eldest son's wife, always speaks harshly to me and maintains a sarcastic attitude no matter how hard I try to build a good relationship with her. When invited to our granddaughter Marcia's 5th birthday party, my husband and I arrived only to find Giselle had prepared a meal and cake for just 3 people. Giselle, what about our meal? Only enough for the family? What? No food for stingy people here? She said this while still holding the gift and envelope we had just given her, a $500 gift for your granddaughter's celebration. Are you joking? My dad gave $2K, it should be at least $1K. I thought it was a normal amount. I'm at my limit. Can we cut ties after today? Giselle said with a full smile. Having my own parents here is more than enough. We don't need you. In fact, you're just in the way. My husband and I exchanged glances. Shall we go home? Yeah, I was shaking with anger. Enough of holding back. I will make her regret how she insulted us and ruined Mara's birthday. I am Elise, a 60-year-old living with my husband, Matt. I work part-time in a restaurant. Ever since our eldest son, Jackson, landed a job at a major company, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders. Matt and I enjoy our days off together, going to movies or traveling. We have a good marriage. Matt is kind, and Jackson is serious and kind to his parents. I felt blessed, but secretly worried that Jackson, in his late 20s, showed no signs of marrying. I hope to be called grandma one day, but I understand many young people nowadays choose not to marry. Just when I had almost given up hope, Jackson brought home his fiancée. She was Giselle, the only daughter of a well-known local company. They met at a cafe near Jackson's company. Giselle, not adept at office work and looking to gain some experience, was working there part-time. She had approached Jackson, and they started dating. She seemed like a capable, beautiful woman who could lead Jackson. The year after they married, they were blessed with a granddaughter named Marcia. Jackson and Giselle, who lived in a nearby condominium, would often bring Mara to visit us during long weekends besides Thanksgiving and Christmas. Matt and I adored Mara, who was growing up so fast. Giselle always seemed happy watching us. However, what started as a good relationship between Giselle and me began to crack, triggered by her requests. One day, as usual, Jackson, Giselle, and Marcia came to visit. Seeing Matt and Jackson off on a shopping trip, Giselle approached me. Mara has sensitive skin, so we have to be picky about her clothes. The ones with good design are pretty expensive. Was she hinting that she wanted me to buy baby clothes, I wondered? Jackson earns a salary higher than the average for men in their 30s. He's so generous. Wouldn't he easily give money for children's clothes if I asked? Maybe they're saving for the future and don't want to spend from the household budget. And Giselle's family seems wealthier than ours. Maybe it's hard for her to ask her parents. Giselle, is there a particular outfit you want? After hesitating, I asked, and Giselle's face lit up. Yes, I love this brand because it's cute. Famous actresses often dress their kids in it. She showed me images on her mobile phone, and I was astonished. A short-sleeved t-shirt was $70, a lacy dress $100, and ballet shoes with the brand logo were an astonishing $1,000. Giselle, isn't that a bit extravagant for ordinary folks like us? I gently chided her, but Giselle retorted with wide eyes. Don't you find Mara adorable? I don't mind wearing thrift store clothes, but I want my daughter to wear nice things. Overwhelmed by her fervor, I ended up buying the high-end clothes and shoes she insisted on. I hesitated to tell Matt about it, choosing to remain silent. I justified it to myself, thinking, I bought these with my own salary, so it's okay, right? After that, besides other gifts, I continued to send clothes and shoes for Marcia's birthdays and Christmas. However, one thing puzzled me. Every time the clothes arrived, Giselle would send a thank you message, but she never posted pictures of Mara wearing them. One weekend, while having lunch with a friend, I confided in her about this. She thought for a moment and then showed me an online marketplace. Is this? I gasped in surprise. Just 2 days after I had sent Giselle the clothes, the same items were listed on the site. The same items you bought for your eldest son's wife? Yes, a limited edition for spring. No mistake there, and they're unopened. I always buy children's clothes here, so I keep an eye on this brand. It's popular. An unopened item sells for a high price. My friend frowned. This person, I remember their username because it's unique. They post high-end brands several times a year. so I wondered if they were selling gifts they received. I had a bad feeling. If it happened just once, it could be a coincidence. But if it continued, it would mean Giselle was secretly selling the clothes I sent. Or worse, was she planning to sell them from the start and just using me to buy them? Whenever I checked the online marketplace, 2 days after I sent the clothes, the same items listed by the same username would appear. Last year, during a visit to Jackson and Giselle's home, I finally decided to confront Giselle. I've decided to stop giving clothes as gifts. Why? Giselle puffed up her cheeks in response. Matt opposed the idea of such expensive children's clothes. But don't worry, I'll continue to give toys and gift cards as usual. I had finally talked to Matt about this matter, albeit late. Matt agreed with me. Giselle, being a housewife, might be selling the children's clothes for some extra cash. If you find it hard to refuse, feel free to use my name. Thank you, I'll do that. Sure enough, when I mentioned Matt's name, Giselle swallowed her complaints. He's not comfortable with the reticent Matt. Fine then, I understand. Matt's quite stingy, isn't he? She spat out the words bitterly. But after that, she never pestered me for children's clothes again. There were other behaviors of Giselle's that irked me. Perhaps due to being a germaphobe, whenever I tried to touch Marcia, Giselle insisted on me washing my hands with soap and sanitizing them. Furthermore, whenever I visited their condominium, Giselle would follow me with an alcohol spray, disinfecting everywhere I touched. It felt like being treated as a germ, which was unpleasant. Amidst growing distrust towards Giselle, I received an unexpected call from her. Surprised, I answered, and she spoke with a buoyant voice. We're planning a birthday party for Mara soon. Would you and Matt like to come and celebrate with us? Really? Is that okay? I had to ask again to be sure. We usually invite kindergarten friends, but this year Mara already celebrated with a friend whose birthday is close. So, Jackson and I thought we'd invite you guys. How about next Sunday? Thank you, we'll be there. I was planning to send the present by express delivery service as usual, so I was really happy. Is the doll she wanted before okay for a present, or would you prefer a gift card? Could we have cash this time? Understood. After discussing with Matt, I put the present and $500 in an envelope and went to Jackson and Giselle's condominium the following Sunday. The living room, stylishly decorated with pastel-colored balloons and garlands, had Marcia standing there with a shy smile, her hair adorned with a ribbon, wearing a pink dress. Grandma, Grandpa, thank you for coming to my birthday party. Marcia greeted us, holding the hem of her skirt, and both Matt and I couldn't help but smile warmly. She always looks cute, but today she looked like an angel or a fairy. Thank you for inviting us. Now 5 years old, you're a big girl now. Yes, I'm a big sister now. Her confident reply was irresistibly adorable. Dad, Mom, thanks for coming. We were surprised to see Jackson. It had been months since our last meeting, and he looked quite worn with dark circles under his eyes. You look a bit thin. Is work keeping you busy? Oh, yeah. Jackson's vague smile gave me an uneasy feeling. Jackson, you've had your company health checkup, right? I have. Sorry, this is a call from work. He stepped out into the hallway, quickly ended the call, and returned to the room. I need to head out to the office for a bit. I'll be back by evening. Giselle, please order dinner for Dad and them too, okay? As Jackson hurriedly left, Giselle brought in a casserole and a whole birthday cake to the dining table. Dad's gone to work, so let's eat without him. While saying this, she cut the bear-shaped cake into 3 pieces. 3? I noticed that Giselle had set the table with only 3 plates and cutlery. She divided the casserole into 3 portions and placed them on the plates. Giselle, what about our portions? I asked, puzzled. Giselle just shrugged her shoulders. There's only enough for the family. What? No food for us? Stung, I said this, almost singing. Holding the envelope we had just given her, $500 gift for your granddaughter's birthday. Are you kidding? My dad gave $2,000. It should at least be $1,000. I thought it was a normal amount, as I quietly countered. Giselle looked at us and snorted. Normal for someone working in a factory part-time. $500 must be a lot, right? Oh, I apologize then. Ignoring Matt's changing expression, Giselle continued in a mocking tone. I knew this family was poor before I even married. The house is old, the interior is outdated, and the whole family is incredibly stingy. This is what you call a marriage of financial disparity, and it's almost laughable. But this is worse than I expected. Anger welled up inside me. A marriage of financial disparity? She was the one who pursued Jackson, and now she dares to talk like this. That's why I've always been thorough with disinfection, to avoid catching the poverty germs from you. It would be terrible if me, a CEO's daughter, or Jackson, who works in a major company, got infected. I see. That's why she was almost peeling her skin off, constantly wiping her hands with sanitizing wipes. But I'm at my limit. Can we cut ties after today? Giselle said this with a false smile towards Matt and me. Having my own parents is enough. We don't need you. In fact, you're just in the way. Matt and I exchanged glances. I thought Matt would be angry, but he seemed to have moved past anger to disbelief, wearing a cold expression. Shall we go? Yeah. As we headed to the entrance in disbelief, Mara followed us, looking confused. Grandpa, Grandma, are you leaving already? I was looking forward to playing with you. Seeing Mara's tears, my heart clenched. I hugged Mara. I'm sorry, darling. We have to go today, but we'll come and see you again soon. Until then, be a good girl and listen to Dad and Mom, okay? Okay, I understand. As Matt stroked Marcia's head, I noticed Giselle standing behind him, arms crossed, glaring at us. With heavy hearts, Matt and I left Marcia behind. In the evening, Jackson called after returning home. When I got home, Mara's eyes were swollen. She had been crying since you two left. Is that so? Mom, you left because your stomach was hurting, right? It can't be helped. Did you go to the doctor? I'm feeling better now, thank you. Jackson's kindness warmed my heart. Compared to Giselle, after hanging up, intense anger welled up inside me, and my hands trembled. Giselle had driven Matt and me away, and Marcia's tears probably didn't matter to her at all. Enough of holding back. I will make her regret how she insulted us and ruined Marcia's birthday. Despite Giselle's declaration of cutting ties, she seemed to still hide her true self from Jackson. I hadn't left the family messaging app. Matt and I could still communicate with Jackson and Giselle, so I decided to use the messaging app to reveal Giselle's true nature to Jackson. Timing it during his company's break, I posted the online marketplace images in the group message. Giselle responded quickly, Ellie, delete that photo right now. Oh, Giselle. I thought you wanted to cut ties with us. Right after my reply, a message from Jackson appeared. Giselle, what's this about? Don't believe her, Jackson. It's all lies from Elise. About cutting ties? Lies? No. I'm talking about the clothes, the ones Mom gave for Marcia. I never saw her wear them, and they're on the online marketplace. Giselle, perhaps flustered, left the message on read without replying. And it's all of them. Did you have Mom buy them just to sell? I can't believe this. It's a coincidence someone else happened to sell the same clothes online. Jackson pressed on against Giselle's denial. That's your username, Giselle. When I get home, I'll check Marcia's closet since you insist they should all be there, right? I remembered she dirtied them as soon as she wore them, so I threw them away, all 20 of them. Selling them would have easily net over $1,000, right? I could sense a quiet fury in Jackson's messages. Soon after, a message from Jackson to me appeared. Mom, after work, can I bring Giselle to your house? I want the 4 of us to have a talk. Wait a minute, I'm not going. I have to take care of Marcia. Jackson responded to the panicking Giselle. I'll ask your parents to join us, so I'll come over after dinner. I have to get back to work now. After that, Jackson's messages stopped immediately. Giselle called me. Hey, old hag, stop meddling in things. How scary. I feigned fear at Giselle's ranting, but she continued yelling without lowering her tone. I told you we were cutting ties. Don't be all friendly in the family messages. That message was for Jackson. You reacted on your own. I spoke firmly. So you're not coming tonight? Jackson will find that suspicious. Giselle clicked her tongue on the other end and spoke in a low voice. Fine, I'll come. But if you pull any more weird stunts, you'll never see Marcia again. Remember that. Okay. We'll be waiting for you guys tonight. After hanging up, Matt and I, who had listened to the whole conversation, exchanged a knowing smile. That evening, Jackson and Giselle visited our house. Marcia was apparently left with Giselle's parents. Giselle, exuding an air of displeasure, didn't change her attitude even as the four of us sat at the dining table. But when I laid out the photos, she instantly paled. Giselle frantically gathered the photos and stuffed them into her skirt pocket. I arranged the remaining few in front of Jackson. They were photos of Giselle and a man closely entwined in front of a champagne tower at a nightclub. Where did you find these? Giselle glared at me with intense eyes, but I explained with a smile. A friend's daughter works at a bar. She went to a nightclub and mentioned seeing someone named Giselle partying extravagantly. Giselle, being model-like beautiful, apparently stood out a lot. I didn't believe it at first, but when I showed your photo to my friend's daughter, she recognized you. Then I searched your username from the online marketplace and social media, and that's how I found these images. Jackson picked up one of the photos. There was a fierce anger in the usually calm Jackson's face. A nightclub, huh? There's a reason for this. You left Marcia with me, saying you were working overtime and went out to places like this every night. The story about helping a friend was a lie. Then, Giselle, faced with his icy tone, didn't even try to excuse herself. Jackson sighed and covered his forehead with his hand. So, the clothes Mom gave were sold to fund these nightclub outings. No wonder the pocket money was never enough. It's not like I was cheating or anything. What's the big deal? As Giselle became defiant, I let a smile play on my lips. More to come, by the way, Jackson. Did you bring what I asked for earlier? Yes. Jackson took out credit card statements and a bank passbook from his bag, causing Giselle's eyes to widen. Jackson, don't take things out without asking. The card's mine, and the passbook is in both our names. It's fine to show them. Giselle, rendered speechless by Jackson's unyielding tone, shut her mouth angrily. Jackson spread out both the card statement and the bank passbook on the table, exclaiming in shock as soon as he saw them. Matt and I, peeking over, were equally stunned. No wonder the card's revolving payments balance exceeded $20,000, and the bank account had only a few dollars left. This can't be true. The card's maxed out, and all the money we saved from Marcia has been spent. Besides the dumbfounded Jackson, Giselle puffed up her face and turned away. Well, frequenting nightclubs would quickly burn through a few $1,000s. Jackson, who had been calm until now, finally exploded in anger. Giselle, touching our child's savings is absolutely wrong. How can you even call yourself a mom? Shut up, all of you! Giselle, irritated, tossed her hair and spat out, What's wrong with using your money as I please, you stingy man? She stood up, facing Jackson, and unleashed a tirade. Listen, I married you because you work at a major company. I thought I could spend money freely and live luxuriously without working. But once we started living together, it's all about saving for the kid, cutting down on eating out, saving money. All your commands ridiculous. Jackson's face grew rigid after a long stare down with Giselle. He sighed softly. I understand. Let's divorce. I can't do this with you anymore. Since it seems you've caused Mom a lot of distress, I'll be asking for alimony too. Distress is mutual. Fine. I'll ask my dad. He'll happily pay the alimony and the card bills. I don't need any of you. Giselle spoke arrogantly, then burst into shrill laughter. I pointed my mobile phone at her. You sure you should be saying that, huh? Your dad's company has gone bankrupt. Giselle was taken aback. She snatched my mobile phone and stared at the screen in disbelief. Frozen, it just appeared on the local online news. Haven't you heard anything from your father? He mentioned the recession and having trouble with finances, but he always fulfilled my requests. Giselle's earlier bravado had vanished. Her face paled and her voice trembled. Then her mobile phone rang. Giselle took it out, swallowed hard, and answered the call. Dad, it's not true that the company's bankrupt, right? I'm sorry. We tried our best, but it didn't work out. so I'm afraid I can't support you financially anymore. Giselle's face contorted, looking like she might cry at any moment. What? But I need the money. Paying our employees is all we can manage. I'm retiring as president and will live quietly with Mom. You should live happily with Jackson and Marcia. Giselle's dad's loud voice made the entire conversation audible. Live happily? We're probably getting divorced, really. Anyway, the nightclub called. They asked when you're paying the $20,000 bill. Giselle's face twisted even more. I thought I'd ask you for it. That's impossible. Giselle's dad dismissed the idea outright. Giselle, you're 35 years old, a full-grown adult. You need to sort this out yourself. Good luck. Giselle, holding the disconnected phone, looked utterly defeated. Actually, we've been saving money for Marcia for when she grows up. $100,000. Giselle's eyes widened as if they might pop out. We didn't remodel our old house and saved every penny. We thought of giving it to you to help with the debt if you apologized and showed some remorse. But you said we were not needed, right? So you don't need it then. Giselle's mouth moved like a fish out of water, but no words came out. Anyway, that's the end of this discussion.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit any time, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.